Riding bikes has been a fun activity for children forever, but it's very dangerous too. Over 70,000 children in 2017 got into a bike accident, but there are ways to prevent this. Like doing the ABC Quick Check, by doing the 10-minute tire check, by making sure that you're wearing the appropriate clothing and you're knowing how to put your helmets on, and by knowing the laws and your hand signals. Some quick ways for you to make sure that you're safe is by doing the ABC Quick Check and the 10-minute tire check. ABC Quick stands for A, air, to put air into your tires. B, to put brakes and to ensure that your brakes are clean, straight, and proper in contact with the rims. C is for chains. Chains is to make sure that they aren't tangled. And quick release is to make sure that your levels are adjusted and tightened to the max. Tires. The 10-minute tire check is to make sure that there are no holes, that they aren't worn out, and to make sure that you spin your tires before going on the road.
And you put one on underneath the tire, and you can hook it on to the spoke, so that keeps the tire off of the rim. And then the other one, you're going to take it and you're going to get it in there. I'm used to doing it with one. So then you just take it and you run it around real fast, and that takes the tire off of one side of the rim. And then you're going to pull the whole tire off. And the reason why you take the whole tire off is because now you have to check the tire to see why it got a flat. So you don't want to put the tube back in if you don't check your tire, because then whatever was in there that popped it, it's going to pop it again. So carefully, you have to run your hands. You put your two hands inside, so you want to be touching both sides, and you carefully run it around the tire. And while you go slow, not to find it, if it's a piece of glass or a thorn, you don't want it to, stab you. And you go around the entire tire. And then once you get around the entire tire, you're pretty sure that it's there's nothing in there. You get your tire back, you got the new tube, and you're gonna put the rim on one side, the tire on one side of the rim. Sometimes it's a little hard because the tire, if it's new, it's a little hard. It's not so easy to put it back on. So one side is going to be out of the rim, one side's on the rim. You're going to take your inner tube, you're going to find the hole where the valve stem, this is the valve stem, goes in there. You got to make sure there's no creases in the tube, and you want to make sure that you have it even. So then you start at the valve stem, and you put the inner tube in there, the valve stem in there. Then you feed it into the tire. Go around, you make sure you don't twist it in there. And it'll look a little too big because it's not inflated all the way. Okay. So now once you have it in there, you now have to put the tire on the other side of the rim. So you start, you have to be careful because you can see as the tube comes out, which is normal, you don't want to pinch it when you're putting the tire on. So you start going around, and it's a little hard when you don't do it often, but you can, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And you start by trying to get the tire on there evenly, and then you have to roll it. And this is what what happens sometimes, so it can be a little trying. Especially when the tires are new. I have to redo this for one of the guys and it go faster.
It's okay. Stop and start.
Yes.
What's the first one? Put you on the spot.
It's okay. So I don't have to fake it. There. Okay, so the tire's on there. And now there is a way to pump up a flat tire. You just don't put the air in real fast. This is a bolt that goes back on the valve stem so that it keeps the valve stem still. So you put that back on, it screws back on, and it keeps the valve stem still, because if the valve stem starts moving around, what can happen is that where it's attached to the inner tube, it can cut the inner tube just from the moving around. Okay, so we have it on there. Now, if you were on the, can you stop?
Yeah, we can.
No, stop. And again, it takes practice. And what you want to make sure, it has to go into this piece. Now, probably most of your bikes will not have that, but I might as well tell you, this is the actual brake. And so the rotor slides right in there, okay? So if you think it's on there just fine, well, as you can see, it's not. So that's why, you know, there is a way of getting it on there, okay? So you have to make sure that this is the fork of your bicycle, and these are called the dropouts. You have to make sure they are in this piece, which is the axle, the skewer, and that it is in there nice, okay, and firm. However, it's still not done. You now, as you can see, you can hold your bike all by yourself. There's another way of holding it too, and you can tighten that by just holding it this way, and you know, and controlling it with your leg, with like this. But anyway, you know, you can do it without assistance. Okay, so now.
When biking, clothing colors and having a helmet on are very important things. To make sure your helmet is on correctly, you can use a 2-finger rule. First, you put 2 fingers under your chin to make sure that there's enough space between the strap and your chin. Then, you put 2 fingers on top of your forehead and you make sure that the helmet is on top of that. Last, you form a V with your 2 fingers under your ear, and then you make sure that the strap of the helmet follows this path. Not only is headgear important, but so is clothing. Wearing neon clothes is very smart because you will be seen by drivers. Wearing comfortable shoes and comfortable socks is very important too because it does not make your feet hurt as much.
To keep safe when biking on the roads, make sure to follow these rules. Always stop and check both directions when leaving your driveway, curb, or alley. Cross the street at intersections. Always walk your bike across intersections to avoid falling. Always ride the same direction as cars do. Use bike lanes and designated bike routes when available. When passing other cyclists and people on the street or sidewalk, make sure to always pass on our left side. Obey all traffic lights and stop signs just as cars do.
Now going to talk about hand signals while riding a bicycle. You use these hand signals to show cars and other people on the road where you're going so you don't get hurt. To show you're turning left, put out your left arm out. And when you're turning right, put your right arm out. To also show that you're stopping, bend your arm down and hold your arm close to your ribs. These hand signals are to be used when turning or stopping. The hand signals will help show other drivers where you are so you don't get hit by a car and injure yourself.